Welcome everybody to the Livestrong Icon Summit session on Acceleration Grant Partners, Updates and Progress. My name is Scott Joy. I live way up north from Austin in the New Hampshire Seacoast area, and I serve on Livestrong's board. I have personal experience both as a testicular cancer survivor since 2003 and as a caregiver for my wife, Judy, who my family lost to the blood cancer multiple myeloma 8 years ago. I deeply appreciate your interest in helping make life better for people facing cancer. I've been riding for the Livestrong Challenge every day this week too. I just finished my 250-minute commitment this morning before the Icon Summit, and I have 2 more days and 29 miles left to accumulate my 100 miles for my personal goal. Over the past 25 years, Livestrong has funded more than 580 projects and programs, making an impact that people can feel by improving the quality of life for those affected by cancer everywhere. And in 2019, Livestrong launched the Solutions Grant Program to recognize and fund organizations that are developing cutting-edge, inventive, and sustainable solutions to overlooked everyday cancer problems. Our focus is in 4 areas: post-treatment care, patient and caregiver education, comprehensive quality of life services, and streamlining systems and care. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from 4 of our Acceleration Grant recipients. So we'll hear from each partner one at a time, and then we'll take questions before we move on to the next. And there should be time left at the end to open the floor back up for more questions. And we'll get started now. Up first is PlantPowered Metro NY.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so it's been an honor really to be a part of the Livestrong community for these last many months. And I guess what I want to do today is just introduce you to our work and why we do what we do, and then to talk you through some of the specific programs that we were able to run, or actually in the middle of running, thanks to the support of the Livestrong Foundation. And really the focus of our organization, our mission, is around plant-based nutrition education. And so today we're going to be talking about how we have been working to empower older adults of color in the New York area with plant-based nutrition education. And these are specifically targeting cancer survivors and those who are going through cancer treatment. So our mission in general is to empower people to find better health and overcome chronic disease with whole food, plant-based nutrition. And so we do this in a wide variety of ways, but in general, we have a pretty wide volunteer network that works across the metro area, doing outreach and talking to people about the power of food as medicine. And one of the exciting things that happens when you talk to people is you start to open doors. And one of the early relationships that we built as an organization was with the older adult service agency. And now they used to be called senior service agencies. We're really moving in a direction of different language here for inclusion purposes. To the older adult senior service agency, JASA, which is serving people, 40,000 seniors across the city. When we talk about our mission with plant-based nutrition, what we're trying to do as an organization is connect people with the evidence base for a particular way of eating. And apologies for my New York siren in the background. We're trying to make sure that people are aware of the links between diet and disease. And when we talk about cancer, we try to do this in a very gentle way, because for many people, there's a sense of shame and guilt when we start talking about food being a reason for disease. And we want people to not start from a place of shame, but to really open minds and hearts and to think differently and find hope in what we can do in our own kitchens. And so what we've done specifically for cancer education, we are using a curriculum that was developed by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And their curriculum is called Food for Life. We have a number of local Food for Life instructors who we hire to work with us with specific organizational partners. So the program that we have done in the metro area is the Power of Food for Cancer Prevention and Survival. And so this particular curriculum can be delivered in many different lengths of sessions. You can do it in 3, you can do it in 7. We used our Livestrong grant to present a series of 4 sessions to 3 different communities so far, and we'll have a 4th coming up this fall. And the Food for Life curriculum is really lovely because each session is 2 hours A full hour is a culinary demonstration, and it's not complicated food. It's actually very accessible recipes, doesn't take a lot of ingredients, and is meant to allow people who have varying budgets to be able to find the ingredients that they need and have some fun in the kitchen. So it's an hour-long culinary demonstration, and the rest of the content is a mixture of video presentations that were put together by doctors and dietitians from the Physicians Committee, and then also group support and discussion and sort of unpacking learning and bringing it home and making it real. So we try to build community whenever we do these classes, and that's why we love working directly with our community-based partners, because we might be content providers, but we don't want to just come in, drop in a program and leave. We want to go in and create a completely different way of engaging in this conversation and having it stick within their community, so that there's not just the stickiness of their own lifestyle behaviors, but also the relationships that they have, which we know can support dietary change in the long term. So when we do these Food for Life classes with these older adults, the 4 particular focus areas of each session look at how foods fight cancer. We go deep on the important role of high fiber and low fat foods in cancer survivorship and prevention. And then we also talk about the cancer fighting compounds of plant foods and other kinds of foods that we know to be supportive of immune system health, since cancer at its core is related to our immune system. And then the 4th session, because breast and prostate cancer are really so widespread, we do a whole session specifically devoted to those cancers and focus on the hormonal aspect of them and how food and hormones are deeply interconnected. So by the end of the program, we do these in over 4 weeks, 4 consecutive weeks at the same time each week. And our culinary instructor, who's a Food for Life trainer, is presenting them. And we have a community assistant from our volunteer network who helps out with technology, because we've had to do these virtually, although they're really fun to do in person. And what's been really awesome to see is that everybody's cooking these dishes afterwards, and then they send their photos over to our instructor, and they're like, look, I recreated the dish that you made today, and it gets to be really exciting. So the kinds of dishes they're making are like a plant-based mac and cheese, which is based on butternut squash, and they're making a sweet and sour stir fry with a lot of vegetables and with seitan, and they're making bean dips and things that we know to be really supportive and high fiber. And we've worked directly with 3 different organizations in New York City. One of them, as I mentioned, JASA, is really extensive citywide agency with 20-some senior centers and other naturally occurring retirement communities. We've worked most closely with their senior centers that are based in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. And people just keep coming back to do more of these, but we had never done the cancer program with our community before, and we found it was really it just brought in a new level of conversation. We also worked with the Fort Greene Council, which is a Brooklyn-based senior service agency that has a network of 13 senior centers, mostly serving the African American and Afro-Caribbean populations in Central and North Brooklyn. And we also worked with Heart Smarts, which is a project of New York Presbyterian Hospital focused on African Americans who have a faith-based connection. Some of them are leaders in their churches, some of them are clergy people, both lay and clergy people involved. And what we found is that because these folks were already coming from a place of community, they really took very quickly to the interactivity of the classes and built a lovely rapport with one another. So here's just some photos of what we've done with JASA. Back in the day, before we presented this particular cancer class, we had an in-person session with one of our doctors. And this is our friend Gladys, who was so inspired by the work that she created her own binder of recipes. We give everybody a guidebook with the things that we offer them, but she really went overboard and has become an ambassador to her peers in turn. And then, so the question is, who are we really serving here? Well, we worked over the course of those 3 programs. We had 75 older adults involved. So an average of 25 per program. And we found JESS in particular serves a wider demographic than just people of color. So we had 83% who disclosed that they are people of color. And just remember that whenever you run a survey, you try to figure out as much as you can, but not everybody will tell you details. And we did want to make information related to their cancer status and their race optional. So we don't have all the data that we want, but a third of them disclosed as being survivors of cancer, and a quarter disclosed that they were currently undergoing treatment at the time they participated. And then many of the others just said, look, I lost a spouse to cancer, I lost family members, I have really high risk, and we had a few caregivers of cancer patients in the program as well. And then, you know, what was really interesting to us, and I know this is just indicative of the larger issue that we face in healthcare, among those who did disclose a cancer history, more than 2/3 received absolutely no nutritional guidance as part of their treatment, and 32% said that they received some, but none said that they received extensive nutrition counseling. And because we really know that there's so much that food can do to support the body, either through treatment or prior to treatment or after treatment, it just feels like an injustice, at least from my perspective, that most people are not getting this level of information from their medical teams or their cancer care teams, even outside of a medical setting. So we really feel like we're filling a gap. And I will say, related to these numbers, it's actually different depending on the community. So within the JASA community, there were some participants who had higher socioeconomic means. And within the Fort Greene Council and Heart Smarts community, most of them would be considered in a lower bracket. And it swung much higher that people received no guidance when they were identifying as people of color. And I think that's also a big equity issue in terms of cancer care. So what actually happened in these programs? So at the end of the process, we do a pre and a post questionnaire. And so we try to, here we go. We try to figure out like what actually happened here. So I have a bunch of numbers on the page, but I'll talk to you about it, so don't get overwhelmed. We want to see changes in behavior even before we see changes to health status. And as an organization that's non-medical, we can't really get that health status information, but we can look at behavior and attitude changes. So what we found at the end of 4 weeks, looking across all three of these groups, 70% shared with us that they're trying new plant foods that they've never tasted before. I think that's a huge success. And very closely behind, 68, newly reading labels when shopping. A huge part of what we try to do is just bring awareness to what's in the foods that are available to us so that people can make more informed choices. And if more than 2/3 are doing that, then that's a great success. 61% are buying fewer packaged or processed foods than before they started the program. We also looked at these 3 vectors that we teach about, which is about reducing animal consumption, if not eliminating it, reducing processed food consumption, if not deeply eliminating it. It's very hard to like take processed foods completely out of the diet. And then we also talk about reducing dietary fat consumption as a key lever in promoting, cancer health, health with cancer, health after cancer. So what you'll find here, and I should have color coded these, but with animal product consumption, 85% actually did reduce their consumption of animal products during the course of those 4 weeks, and 15% reported eliminating it. And this is, we asked the question, had you already taken foods out of your diet before? And nobody had. So this is actually 100% of people who went through the program are telling us that they made substantial, some level of change to their diet, and 15% substantial change. And we found that 42% really reduced their consumption of processed food, and even more than that, deeply minimized the consumption. So that's the higher, the more radical step. And that's really quite amazing to me. We talk a lot about the challenges of sugar, of oil, added oil in the diet, and of salt, and helping people to really figure out how to navigate in a world that is laden with salt, a world of food that's laden with salt and oil and sugar is a big deal. So to me, this feels really exciting. And then again, more than 2/3 are really making an effort to reduce their dietary fat consumption. And what we also found, though, is in terms of attitudes, a lot of people, and I'm sure some of you even here, may be thinking, wow, well, eating a healthy plant-based diet sounds like a really scary thing. It sounds really challenging. It seems really expensive. It seems like it's not going to fit my lifestyle. And while I haven't really crunched the data well enough to be able to tell you exactly how the change has happened, we do see a really steep reduction in people's perception of how challenging it is to eat a plant-based diet. Now, not everybody is taking all this information and assimilating it and becoming superstars afterwards, or living a perfect life. That's not really our goal. But just helping people to understand that it's possible for us is such a really incredible success. And so a few quotes from the participants in the program, just so you get a sense of the more qualitative information. This woman said, "Now I feel empowered. When I go food shopping, I look for colorful colors and make beautiful, nutritious, and delicious foods. I'm not as intimidated to try new foods and spices. I feel it's an adventure." And talking about sharing this with her husband as well. Eating more plant-based foods, I've seen an increase in my energy, less joint pain, more frequent bowel movements, clearer skin. I'm chronically constipated, and although the problem still exists, it has not been as unbearable as usual. This came out earlier when in our nutrition breakout from this morning. We were talking about different challenges that cancer patients have faced, and certainly constipation being one of them. Another person said, I was treated for my cancer with chemotherapy and radiation, and now I want to regain my health and strength by using the Food for Life experience. And this person, one of the Heart Smarts participants, I love this, just came back from vacation and thought it would be a challenge to eat out. I knew what I have learned was important to me, and I was able to ask establishments to tweak meals to plant-based. I was pleasantly surprised at how willing chefs were to modify meals and to hold to the integrity of a plant-based diet. So I think, what she says here, I found that we should not assume and ask in the name of health. When we advocate for ourselves, to me, that's like the highest form of empowerment. And I feel really excited when we see people doing that in their work. So what's next? I mean, there are so many things that we could do next, but for me, I hope that as an organization, we can continue to deepen relationships with these partners. 75 people is a great group of people, but that's just a drop in the bucket. In the New York area, we have millions to touch. So we're hoping that we can offer more of these kinds of programs. But we don't just want to be, program presenters. We want to be community builders. And so what we have started to do is to train these Food for Life graduates, if you will, those who have been most excited and most changed by their experience as mentors to their peers and as ambassadors to the wider community. So we just did a training program in August with a few of the participants from the JASA community. And they're now, actually just yesterday, they started a new Food for Life series, and those older adults are now supporting their peers in the process of change. And to me, again, this is another form of empowerment that when people are passing it on and sharing their lived experience with others to help them walk the path a little bit easier than they did before. And the other thing that's really exciting for us is working with the staff. We've also started to build some wonderful relationships with some of the chronic disease staff and the senior center directors of different organizations. And they are going through education on their own level for their own personal health, and then taking it back to their communities as leaders who are not always, they're social service leaders. They're not necessarily doing medical work and helping people with day-to-day health issues from a medical perspective, but they're the front lines. They're the people who can support somebody in finding a new path forward and in thinking about incorporating a food-based approach to improving their quality of life. And so again, when we talk about empowerment, I'm feeling really excited by the relationship potential within the staff populations of the organizations that we work with, because they are influencers and change agents in their own right. Another thing that we're doing this fall is offering one of our Jumpstart programs, which is where we get a whole bunch of people involved in making a change over a 21-day period. And we give them a lot of education and support to do that. And we've had a number of people from the Food for Life classes now sort of getting funneled into this community-wide dietary change program, which is meant to help them go from the space of gradual change, which is what Food for Life helps them with, to a place of more radical change, which will, we believe, and we've seen this happen many times, help them really achieve their health goals. Because even if a plant-based diet it's not going to miraculously cure everything, especially when we talk about cancer, but a lot of these people were presenting with diabetes and hypertension, heart disease, and other issues, a lot of gastrointestinal issues. And those are the things that we know are really modifiable with plant-based nutrition. So we're hoping that we can sort of help them go much deeper and find significant, if not full, relief from a lot of those issues by being a part of a wider community initiative. So again, we might be a program provider to them, but at the end of the day, we're trying to build this community and an arc of experience that brings them from one program into the next, that really gives them a fuller understanding of food and health within the context of a supportive community.
I'm curious how you established those three partnerships. How did you meet each other and decide to work together?
That's great. So, I mentioned at the beginning, we have all of these volunteers who are out there across the city and across the counties surrounding the city. At the early stages, we connected through personal connections with one of she's the woman who's the director of all the senior centers at JASA, who went through one of our Jumpstart programs, and after that process connected us with her fellow senior staff members, and that was really the beginning. So again, this is where find those levers, those change agents, and move in that direction. We also had another woman who went through our Jumpstart program for Black. We ran one earlier this year for Black community leaders, and she connected us with the organization that she was on the board of, which was the Fort Greene Council. And then the Heart Smarts program is something that's led by a health educator who is aware of plant-based nutrition, but she does a more holistic, here we go again, more holistic program. And she, she was teaching her Heart Smarts classes about all the different forms of holistic healing, but had not really gone deep on culinary skills. And the culinary skill buildings are really key, because people will come into this conversation about plant-based eating and be like, I could never do that, or I don't even know how to make those foods, or what is that food that you're. And so as soon as they start to see it happen, and then they're recreating it at home, or they're tasting it, it just widens the opportunities and perspectives. So that seemed to be a big draw for her community to get involved.
The next on the agenda is the Breakfast Club.
Can everyone see the slides?
Yes, ma'am, you're good.
All right. Okay, let's see. To begin with, I'm Cheryl Jackson. I'm honored that you asked me to talk about the Breakfast Club. I'm president and co-founder, and this is our website, and we have also our email address. Just to give everybody a little taste of St. Louis, this is when they painted the arch pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The Breakfast Club is a community-based support groups, primarily serving African-American women residing in North St. Louis City and St. Louis County. And those are the two areas that have the highest disparity rates. But we don't just help African-American women. We work with Native American women, and we have some Caucasian women. The mission of the Breakfast Club is to impact the community through education, awareness, resources, and support. And we do concerning breast health, breast cancer, and breast cancer prevention and screening. And we call our program EARS. We have been around for about 22 years. And in those 22 years, we've established a lot of partnerships and worked with a lot of people to be able to do the things that we're presently doing. Our goals are to raise awareness about breast cancer within the African-American community, to provide education and outreach to the uninsured and the underinsured breast cancer survivors, and to increase awareness of breast health advances in breast cancer treatment. As I said before, the majority of the ladies in the Breakfast Club are breast cancer survivors. They range in age from 20 all the way up to 80. Our goals are also to improve the quality of life for breast cancer survivors by providing resources, course support, and health system navigation assistance. We provide comprehensive education in regard to healthy eating and regular exercise as a means to decrease the incidence of breast cancer or reoccurrence. Our program centered around the following. We have a monthly support group meeting that because of COVID, we've had to basically do Zoom. We have invited speakers and discussed various topics that are of interest to the group. Because we're on Zoom, we have been able to encourage even other women who are in other states to join us. We have a program called the Breast Health Buddy Program. And this is where, and I'm gonna go into more details in the next slide, but the Breast Health Buddy Program allows women who are breast cancer survivors themselves to buddy newly diagnosed women. And I'll explain a little bit more what they do. The Bra and Breast Farm Program is for any women who needs that service. And so we basically provide that. We have a program called Faith on the Move. We have 30, maybe probably 30 churches that we work with. We work with hospitals who have mammography vans, and women who need mammograms sign up, pre-register, and our buddies are there to help navigate them through getting their mammogram. And what happens is they basically will allow us, they've signed a letter, they will allow us to call them in 2 weeks to check on the results of their mammograms. If they have issues, then we're able, well, pre-COVID, we were able to go to treatments with them. We have our Comfort Kit program, and this is a program when women are newly diagnosed, they get a Comfort Kit that has various articles in it, lotions and books and different things that they will utilize during their journey. We do an annual seminar, and again, we had to do it on Zoom, and that was done by one of our local oncologists who knows our programs very well. We have the Breakfast Club Brothers, who's the husbands, sons of our survivors. We have the Breakfast Club Kids. And then we have a Breakfast Club healthy eating program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. The Buddy program that I was explaining offers one-on-one support and services to women who have just received a diagnosis of breast cancer. They will call the Breakfast Club line. I generally end up talking to them first. Based on what they're saying, we ask them, or I ask them about wanting a buddy. If they want a buddy, I send that to our project director, who will assign them a buddy. That buddy will follow them for 9 months through their cancer journey, ensuring that they get the necessary resources. One of our partners provides financial resources that we work with, so that they will make sure they get what they need, besides just having someone that they can call on to alleviate their fears, be a shoulder to cry on. And we try to accompany, as I said before, accompany patients to their treatments, make sure they get their make sure they get their comfort kits, and just assist with them the whole time. Prior to COVID, our buddies would also go to local beauty shops, senior residents, to encourage women to seek their mammography screening. As I said before, we provide bras and breast prostheses to women who are uninsured or underinsured. Women do not have to be in the Breakfast Club to qualify for this program. Women are referred to like a healthcare company that provides services, and it's not like one size fits all. Our Breakfast Club eating program started with a partnership with the YMCA, the University of Missouri, and churches. Centennial Christian Church just happens to be my church. We had a church in the city and we had one in the county. The program provided nutrition, education, and cooking demonstrations, shopping tips, grocery store cards, health trackers, health coaching from a breast cancer survivor and a nutritionist. And if they were a breast cancer survivor or any survivor of cancer, they were able to enroll in the YWCA and get exercise for at least 3 months. Data does show that a lot of African-American women do not eat the necessary vegetables. They don't, their diet, just as the other speakers was talking about, the diet is more animal-based and they don't exercise. And so our program had all of that. Again, because of Zoom, because of the COVID, we had to go to Zoom. The monthly support group we have every third Saturday of each month. The attendance has been anywhere between 20 to 25 women. And as I said before, some are out of state. Speakers have been researchers, people who came on and talked about their own community programs and other topics of interest. Some of our survivors, as a result of those, have participated in focus groups, research groups, and that kind of thing. So the status of where we are with Livestrong, due to the pandemic, the Breakfast Club has not hosted a support group for children and significant others. We did that before. We had once a year, we had a support group for kids that they could just express themselves and talk about how it felt if their mother or someone close to them had cancer. We have provided one-on-one support and navigation to 21 newly diagnosed women. And we have distributed 21 comfort kits to newly diagnosed women. The Breakfast Club has provided 44 bras and 20 breast prostheses to the uninsured and underinsured. And I did not include that we also have set some money aside to try to help women when they have lymphedema, because insurance doesn't cover gloves and sleeves, and that's a problem. So we have set some money aside for that. The Breakfast Club so far with our first class we did was, has graduated 4 women from the healthy eating program. 10 were enrolled, and a new class is beginning on October 5th, and that class will be held via Zoom. We don't really think that the Zoom breakfast healthy eating program is as popular as the one that we had where we were face-to-face and together, and your buddy went with you to exercise. But in this pandemic, that's basically what we're doing on Zoom. And so the Breakfast Club has also distributed about 300 educational materials. We've hosted the annual seminar via Zoom. 27 women were in attendance, and our speaker was an oncologist who was very familiar with the programs of the Breakfast Club and does refer some of her patients to us. The challenges we're having is because of COVID, we have had to do more telephone communications and Zooms to make sure our objectives are met. The biggest challenge has been recruitment and retention of participants for the healthy eating program. So 18 clients are now enrolled for the October 5th class. We've tried to also condense our program to about 8 sessions, hoping that maybe a shorter session will be more successful than when we had it for a longer period. When the ladies do graduate from the healthy eating program, they're able to get a gift card. They're able to go to the grocery store. Now, before we had them go with a buddy who would read labels, choose healthier foods, change their diet, reduce animal fat. So we know that the classes, people do change some of their behaviors, but I still think that face-to-face still works better than the Zoom, but we are doing the Zoom. We experienced one of our buddies who became ill. So we're recruiting now for another breast health buddy to fill the vacancy. So we are very glad that Livestrong has, with our program, it's a contribution to the support of the project, is funding of the salaries of BCI staff, and it's essential to our program. So we are very busy, and as you can see, we still have a lot of things going. The one thing too that I will say is that the one program we couldn't put on Zoom is the fact of women getting their mammograms. The churches that are open, and even those churches that are not, are still allowing us to come do their mammograms. And primarily, we were working with 3 hospitals who had mobile vans. And so we're still working with them, but a few were called back when the when we're in the midst of COVID, and we're still in the midst of a pandemic, but we still screened during that time more than 350 women. So, so that, I believe, is my last slide, and I'm open for any questions.
Cheryl, are there any things that you'd like to be able to do that, whether it's for funding or for COVID or for other reasons, you haven't been able to get to yet?
Yes, we would like to, we had a program where we, when people were incarcerated and they were due to come out of jail, prison, we'd like to be able to, because we work with federally qualified health centers also, we would like to be able to help those ladies get into the health system, provide them education and information, and just connect them. So we haven't been able to do that, but we'd like to do that, more of that. So yeah, I would say yes. And there's always, we probably are the largest group in St. Louis. And so we probably, it would be good. It's difficult enough to keep what we have going. I have been asked about making, helping other people to start chapters. So we probably, it needs to be more than one breakfast club.
I guess I'm curious about, and obviously the transportation issue was anew and having to do things on Zoom during COVID. How else did COVID affect your community's outcomes or issues specifically as they related to treatment and getting support that they needed?
Well, part of the reason, one good thing about Zoom is that we were able to still stay together. We were still able to provide resources, like we were still able to provide, connect them to other organizations that could provide them finances if they need it. We could still give them a buddy. We still We started out with the monthly meetings on conference calls. They wanted to see each other. They share, they basically will talk about what's going on in their life. So we were able to share. We just were not able, we used to be able to meet face to face. And so we couldn't do that, but we have pretty much even stayed together. And we've been able to provide resources and services for newly diagnosed women, you know, and still connect. So COVID just made us go to a different format to be able to do that. There were already disparities when it comes to African-American women and breast cancer. So that existed before. COVID just ripped that off. But I can tell you what I'm beginning to see, which I was afraid of. First, when women did not go for their mammograms and some of their personal type of visits, I'm beginning to see, and that was always a fear, that women who didn't get screened, when they did get screened, the percentage of women being diagnosed, especially African-American women, it was going to be higher. And so that's what I'm seeing, because in the last 3 weeks, last month, 3 women were diagnosed, called me because they were diagnosed with breast cancer. You know, so that's what I'm seeing. You know, more is going to have to be done for care that first we have to reduce these disparities, and so that's what I'm seeing, and that's what I was afraid of seeing, that the women who wouldn't go in for their mammograms, the percentage of was going to increase, and it was already, when you look at the percentage between African American and white women, it's already high, and the death rate is high. So that's what I'm starting to see.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for that update and for the important work that you do. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And next we get to hear about Ride with Emilio.
All right. Hi, everyone. And thank you for having us here. We're excited to be here. We're really thrilled. We've been partners with the Livestrong Foundation for a long time. And just so happy to be a partner and share our mission, which is, our mission is to help families navigate through their child's journey with cancer. And our flagship program is Ride with Emilio, as Scott mentioned. How this started was actually 21 years ago today. Our Emilio died after battling cancer for 3 or 4 years. He was just short of reaching his 6th birthday. So his parents had tried several. He had actually gone through a remission. They tried several treatments, but unfortunately, he just wasn't able to beat this. And he passed away 21 years ago today. So if you were on our Facebook, you would see a celebration of Emilio's life and his passing. During the time that he was in the hospital, his parents noticed that there was a problem among the underserved families, in that a lot of parents were not able to get their children to their cancer treatments because they didn't have a car. Or if they did have a car, then the person who worked would take the car to their job, and leaving them without a way to get to their child's treatments. So in the early days, our founders started this mission in 2003, and Richard started with his own car and started taking children, picking them up at their homes, and then driving them to the hospital. And of course, that caught on rather quickly, and he wasn't able to manage the interest, the demand for children getting to their cancer treatment. So we bought a van. And that van turned into 2 vans, and then that van turned into 4 vans. We expanded from San Diego to Orange County, and we have been serving low-income families, underserved families for the last 18 years, providing this much needed service that you would never think of to get these children and their families to their cancer treatment. We don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're trying to get. I think we're trying to get that
Yeah,
a slide up. There we go.
wait, not that one. Sorry, go ahead.
And to this day, you know, and then of course, COVID hit last year, and as you all know, cancer doesn't take a break during a global pandemic. So we continue to provide our services throughout the whole COVID, the early days when everything was in shutdown. Our drivers were still picking up the kids and driving them to their treatments. And one of the things we've always been really strict about is keeping our vans clean and sanitized. So that was not an issue. So we were able to maintain that quality. We even stepped it up a little bit. And the other thing we did do is we stopped picking up more than 1 family at a time. So even today, we're still only driving 1 family at a time. We'll probably do that until we know we've got some kind of a handle on all of this before we start picking up multiple families. And Katie's going to talk about our numbers in a few minutes, but we do have other programs. So Ride with Emilio is our flagship program. That is really our biggest program. But out of that, we learned of other needs. And one of them is our snack bags program. This is in high demand at both of the hospitals that we serve. We're in San Diego, obviously. We're with Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego and Children's Hospital Orange County in Orange County. And the snack bags are provided. It's nutritional, just snacks for the kids. They usually have to fast a number of hours before their treatment. So when they come out of their treatments, they're very hungry. And so we provide these snack bags to the hospital for them to give to the children after their treatments. And they're really loved. And it's really, our donors get involved in this, and they really put a lot of love and thought into it. They'll put little love notes in there and encouraging notes in the bags for the kids. And we try to make it, fun for these children. The other thing that we have are the Emilio's Loving Tabs. And these were designed by our Vice President of Programs when her own son went through his cancer journey. And they're chemo shirts. So, they all have to have the ports, or many of them have to have the ports in their chest. So these are designed so they unsnap over the shoulder and down the side, and they don't have to take their shirts off. And they don't have to lift their arms. And a lot of times kids don't want to do that. They cry, they don't want to take their shirts off. It's embarrassing. So this provides some comfort for them. And, we get stories all the time about how much their children love these shirts. And we have shipped them out to 2,700 shirts out to 27 hospitals across the country. And we're still working on that, on reaching every children's hospital and providing these shirts for these children. The other things we do, we have a resource center in both of the hospitals now, and that is really the people really love this, because a lot of times these families are in the hospital for sometimes several weeks, right? They're out of communication with their families, or they have to take some time off from their jobs, or they're working from the hospital. But sometimes the Wi-Fi is not working that well in the hospital or whatever. But we have computer stations, we have fax machines, we have stamps, we have envelopes. We provide help with any kind of applications. A lot of times, as you know, a lot of these forms that families have to fill out are really hard to get through, even if English is your first language. So if English is your second language, imagine trying to wade through all of this paperwork. So we help them through that as well. And that's really highly regarded. The hospitals, Rady Children's Hospital, we're the only nonprofit that Rady lets in the hospital with this program. And again, the families love having us there. Our other programs, so we serve families dealing with their child's journey through cancer, from day of diagnosis through the end of their treatment, whether it's ringing a bell and they're in remission, or when the child loses his battle with this disease. And so we provide services for the end of life program. We help families. Sometimes they're, again, in the hospital for a length of time and they can't pay their electric bills, or sometimes it's just a matter of a child's gone home and he's going to be there for hospice, and he wants a recliner, and we'll provide, we'll buy that. And the other thing we do is we provide funding for their burial expenses. And that's the least favorite program of ours. It's a good day when I'm not signing any forms to authorize these services, because that is, heartbreaking for the families to go through this. And I'm going to let Katie talk a little bit about our stats and Ride with Emilio and all that's going on in that area.
Yeah, so Ride with Emilio is our, as Karen mentioned, our flagship program. We've been offering it for 18 years within our community here in Southern California. As Karen mentioned, it started at one hospital in San Diego, and now we're in Orange County, and we're taking on LA very soon, and we're growing. We travel about 100,000 miles each year and make 2,500 trips. So how it works is when a child is diagnosed at the hospital, and the parents hear, your child has cancer, which is horrible, worse feeling, they get assigned a caseworker. And so the caseworker, once they find out their needs and they realize they do not have transportation to get their children to their treatments and medical appointments, they refer them to us. So that is how we get our children, our clientele, and we never turn children away. So even if the child is very, very far away, we make sure that they are able to get to their cancer treatments and their doctor visits, even if it means they go home, say they do come to a treatment or they give blood, they go home, the doctor calls and says your pallet's very low. We go back and pick that kid up and bring them back to the hospital to the doctor. So we give children the best chance that they possibly could have to survive and beat cancer. It was a problem that I didn't even know existed. I never thought that children with cancer didn't have ways to get to their cancer treatments. That really blew my mind when I started learning about our organization, and that in every city, there's kids who really just can't get their treatments because they don't have cars, or they try to take the bus that takes 4 hours to get there and back, and they have a compromised immune system. After getting a treatment, it's very, very hard. So we're there for the family, as Karen mentioned, from the beginning to the end, whatever that is. We also last year just hit our 1 million mile. So we were very excited and we were all ready for a celebration. We started celebrating and then COVID hit and it kind of like, so we can't wait till things are totally opened up and we could start celebrating that 1 million mile and serving 4,000 children in our community. So that was a really big accomplishment for us. And then I also just wanted to share with you guys this mission moment. One moment. It's hidden here. There we go. A mission moment. We always feel it's a good day when we have success stories, which we actually do have quite a bit. So this is Estrella. She has been with us for a while now. She was one of our highlighted children and she rang the survivor bell earlier this year. So she has been part of our Ride with Emilio program. She was referred to us. We gave her rides for 3 years straight. And she lived in a very far town that was 60 miles away each way. So each trip was 60 miles. And there's no way that she would ever be able to get her treatments multiple times a week consistently if it wasn't for our transportation program, which is completely free. And we have a bell that is within a couple of our hospitals. So when they're finished their treatments, they get to ring and have a celebration. And she was one of the children that got to ring the bell and it was very heartfelt. So I just wanted to share this mission moment, which we do get to experience every month. Usually we have some kids that have some success stories and we get to share them with our supporters. years.
And everything else.
Mhm.
Okay, and then we're where we're going is as we mentioned, we're in San Diego and we're in Orange County, and we've really been growing a lot in Orange County and serving a lot of different areas because kids, they do come from, some even come from LA County right now to either San Diego or Orange County. So we've been expanding the radius there. But we're also now talking to Children's Hospital Los Angeles and are in the process of getting up and running there. There are 2,700 children in LA County that need transportation. So we're working on that right now. We have a van, we're ready to move up there. We're in the process of hiring a driver, and we're super excited about the expansion up there. And hopefully eventually in other markets as well that need us, wherever anybody needs a ride to their transfer or to their treatments, we want to be there to help them. And I was going to say something earlier and I can't remember now, but oh, I don't know, I forgot. I thought it was something important, but clearly, but so anyway, so that there is a need. This has been ongoing for 18 years. It's really unimaginable that these, kids were taking public transportation to get to their chemo treatments. And we have stories, and we could go on about some of the stories in these children on the trolley here and getting beat up, or, mom's pushing a wheelchair up a hill and trying to, get her daughter over to the hospital, which, the bus stop is another mile away before they even get to the hospital. So the fact that we're able to provide all these services for these families is just, so great. And we're so happy to do this. And we're so grateful that, programs like Livestrong and the Accelerator Grant Program enables us to continue to provide these vital, life-saving rides and other programs for these children.
I have a question. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you hear a call from Texas
Yes.
saying, please come to Texas and provide this service?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know we're working on that. It's we do have as we continue to grow, I think once we get in LA, that's going to be a huge. I mean, I think we'll start with one van, and I think after we have one van, they're going to be asking for 10 vans in LA because it's a lot bigger than San Diego and even Orange County. And then I think by then it's really going to be widely recognized, and I think we'll have a lot of interest from other areas like Texas. And
Awesome.
so yes, we'll make a note of that.
Yes, make a note.
I mean, how can you tell a kid that needs like a treatment that they just can't because they don't have a ride? I mean, it really hits your heart. So hopefully we would really love to expand the program nationally. I think every single hospital deserves vans to make sure kids can get to their treatments.
And that when their parent hears those words, your child has cancer, they're just struck by every emotion, right? Fear and desperation. And then of course, then they're like, and how am I going to get my child to these treatments, right? Can you imagine just one more thing that they need to worry about? And so, we're just helping them get through this journey. That's what I was going to say. So, yes, they ring the bell and they're done with their treatments, but we do stick with them. We'll take them to follow-up appointments. And even sometimes our drivers will just go pick up their prescriptions for them. So they don't have to leave the house, especially during COVID. That was very welcome. So they would just go get the prescriptions for them and bring it to their home. And so we stick with them until they don't need us anymore.
They become a family.
Yeah.
Remind me, was it Loving Tabs? Is that the name of the chemotherapy t-shirts?
Yes.
Do you see a path to making those more universally available around, in all hospitals everywhere without having to ask specially for them?
Yeah, I'll show the map.
We can show it right here. Yes, we want that. And so that's why we're sending, we got a fairly significant grant from a local foundation here. And that's how we were able to provide them to, we do work with Aflac Insurance and so that's where they are. So if you look at all those red dots there, That's all the hospitals we've sent them to. So I don't know, in Texas, which one? Texas Children's Hospital Medical Center and the hospital,
Providence Children's
either one of
Hospital.
those. We're in Texas. At least we've got the shirts there. So this is what it looks like. And so Dr. Seuss, we've been working with them. Of course, COVID hit, so that's kind of stalled that progress as well. But okay. Dr. Seuss, Aflac. We've also worked with some of the local sports teams. And it has, you know, we have tried to get partners and sponsors. It's not as easy as you think. We thought, oh, once we really started making these, they're patented, and we love them, and the kids love them. And we, you know, well, sometimes a mom will just call and say, hey, I saw this on, or I got one at the hospital. My child needs another one, or my child got one at the hospital and she loves it so much. And here's a picture of her, and they really love it. The material's nice and soft, and you know, they snap here.
And it's a sports material, so like if it gets wet from the fluids and stuff, it'll dry immediately. And we have some with both sides, so that they have both sides. Yeah, and we gift them. So when their child finds out they're newly diagnosed, they get a shirt immediately. So that's nice.
Yeah, they're super soft. So yeah, so I really thought when we first started rolling this out that someone would want their name on that, and in all the hospitals, or the hospitals would really want them. But we haven't really seen that take off yet. We're still trying. We're not going to give up. Like I said, Aflac just came on and asked for it, and it's really only in Atlanta. But I would like to see Aflac. You know, they're not only based in Atlanta. They provide insurance services, you know, all over the place. So yeah, we're working on it. It's slow, but if you guys know anybody who wants their name on our shirts, we will more than be happy to put their name on our shirts and get these in all the hospitals for the kids.
Seems like such a great and simple way to just make a kid's life better, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and we get contacted individually by families here and there, and we send them a shirt immediately. And we've even done international a little bit. We've gotten contacted by some international hospitals, and we took some of our old model shirts and sent those their way too.
All right. Well, it's wonderful that Emilio is still making such a huge impact, or you know, around the world now.
Yeah.
Still
He is.
terrific.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Last on our agenda today is Big Love Cancer, right? Big Love.
Hey everybody. So I'm the co-founder of Big Love Cancer Care, and I actually have my dearest friend on here with me, Kelly. She's a fellow cancer mom with me. And she's also the new executive director. I'm trying to shove that title on her. She's pushing it off, but she is doing a fabulous job. And so she's going to kind of keep me on track, and then she's going to do the slides for me. So, but I'm going to do something today that I don't do very often. And I don't do it because it's just hard to do. And so today I wanted to just share with you my personal story. So I'm going to try to do that. I want you to imagine with me that you're young again. I want you to imagine that you've married your high school sweetheart. I want you to imagine sorry. That's why I don't do it very often.
We're right here with you.
Okay. Imagine you have two beautiful girls. And imagine you just landed your dream job and you're moving from your hometown and you're going to a bigger city, moving to New Orleans. This was us, my husband and I. We had just got settled into a new home in New Orleans, ready, our whole lives in front of us. And I could hear my youngest daughter, Brooke, start coughing on night 2, the second night we were there. I heard her start coughing from down the hall. And I went in there and I felt her head, and she was just extremely hot. So I picked her up and I put her in bed with us. And all through the night, I tried to just manage her fever. And the next morning, I realized I've got to find a pediatrician in a new town, in a new city. And so I found one and I took Brooke. And when we got there, he said, well, she has double ear infections and they sent us home with antibiotics. So I went home, but over the next 3 days, Brooke got increasingly worse. Lethargic, she complained of leg pain, high fever still that really wouldn't break. And so on day 3, I knew that something was really terribly wrong. And I took her back to the doctor. At this point, he took one look at her and he did a chest x-ray, he did blood work, and we left his office. When I got back to our home, if you live in New Orleans or south of New Orleans a little bit, you're always ready for hurricanes. So I got home and our landlord was boarding up our house in the windows. And he said, Jessica, Hurricane Ivan, this is in 2004, is headed straight here. He said, you need to pack up your kids, you need to call your husband, y'all need to evacuate. So I got in the truck, threw as much as I could in there, which wasn't much because we were in a hurry. And we headed out. Well, it's bumper to bumper traffic if you've ever traveled from Louisiana to Houston during an evacuation. So we didn't get very far. We got to Lafayette and we decided to stay in a hotel and the girls loved it. They thought that was amazing. But the next morning, my husband's phone rang very early in the morning. And it was Brooke's new pediatrician. And I could tell by the look on my husband's face that something was wrong. And he told my husband that Brooke has leukemia without a doubt, and that we need to drive straight to Houston to Texas Children's Hospital, and that he will call ahead for us and have them waiting. So when we got there, Texas Children's did confirm immediately that Brooke had leukemia, and we were admitted to the 9th floor, the oncology unit. Now, 4 days later, we were brought into a consultation room and we met her new medical team, Dr. Gladstone Arawilly. He's still the love of my life, despite my husband. And we met so many other fantastic doctors and nurses and social workers. But they had to tell us this. We're so sorry, but your daughter has an aggressive form of leukemia. It's called acute myeloid leukemia. And you can expect to be here for the next 6 months to 1 year. And I didn't remember much after that. I didn't hear much of what they said. But as we were about to leave the room, Dr. Arawilly said, y'all love each other and enjoy every day. And I remember stepping in the hall and walking, it was a short distance back to our room, and remember thinking our lives just changed forever. We started a 2-year journey with cancer treatment at that point. 6 rounds of chemo, radiation, lung surgery, MRIs, CT scans, spinal taps, blood work, more stuff than a 3-year-old should ever, anyone, any adult should ever have to go through. In June of 2006, after 2 relapses and a bone marrow transplant, which was a perfect match, we were brought into another consultation room, again with a different medical team. And with tears in their eyes, they told us this: there is nothing else we can do. We've tried everything. We've done everything that we can medically possibly do for your girl. So at that point, we took her home and we spent a couple of months together swimming and laughing and being a family. At that moment, though, cancer changed our lives forever. On September 29th, just a few months after that, Brooke passed away. I remember every detail of that day. I think one of the, I'm so sorry, the things that is the hardest is feeling discouraged and disheartened that there wasn't more answers for my girl. You know, it has now been 15 years, and we have had the honor of walking beside thousands of other cancer kids and their families through our nonprofit, Big Love Cancer Care. I'm going to get my composure in a minute. And we have reached out across Texas to 6 different hospitals and 5 outpatient clinics, providing 10 to 12 very tangible services. And we do it 365 days of the year. So you might ask, well, how do we create the services that we have? We have about 10 to 12. And it was very simple. We did it based on our experience with cancer and Brooke's experience when we were on the cancer unit for 2 years. What did we need the most? What were the gaps in service? And over time, we learned it's all basic needs. We needed food, we needed transportation, we needed clothing, we needed gas, we needed someone to help with rent sometimes, we needed a place to sleep. It was very basic services. And so what we've done through Big Love is we've developed programs that are simple, they're tangible, and it is things that families can use every single day of the week, every single day of the year. One of our first programs, our core program, is called our weekly wish list program. And every single week, we grant 70 wishes for cancer kids that are in the hospital. So we go to every room, we deliver a paper. Right now, I think it's actually going electronic soon, but it's a paper list, and they fill out everything they want from the store. And it could be toys, it could be clothes, it could be food. It's a lot of times just really all over the place. And we have a volunteer that takes that shopping list and runs and shops for the family and brings it back to their room within 48 hours. So this meets all of their basic needs, and it does it at the point of need and does it immediately. One of our other programs is the LIFT program, and this is granting big wishes. So we help with funerals, transportation. We just replaced 2 transmissions in cars recently. And then we also do a lot of end of life trips and wishes. We just had a young man, 16 years old, with stage 4 very aggressive cancer, and he wanted a fishing pole. And so we ended up getting him a fishing pole, gift cards to Academy, and a chartered fishing trip with his dad. So really amazing what the LIFT program encompasses. We do new diagnosis bags, we do holiday gift baskets, and we feed a ton of people. So to me, food makes everything better somehow, but we feed over 700 people every single week. And toys always make it better for kids. So we give a ton of toys, a ton of food. We also do grief support services, annual scholarships, and now enter Livestrong. So this year, I submitted a proposal to Livestrong to help with end of life, with palliative care, this journey that families go through. This is very close to my heart because there was such a gap in service for us during this time of Brooke's life and what we experienced. And it's really simple. Again, we meet the basic needs of families while they're in the hospital and when they go home on hospice. And I want you to meet Ethan. This is sweet Ethan, 12 years old. He was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of leukemia. And he was admitted to the Livestrong program at MD Anderson. And kids are admitted if they are on a trial phase, if they have an extended stay in the hospital, or if they are end of life. And so Ethan was one of our first kids to receive Livestrong program. And at the very beginning of this, a huge basket is taken into their room, and it's full of food and toiletries and blankets and gift cards, and it's just overflowing with things that they will use for the next couple of weeks. Then they also get a wish list. And so we actually have one of Ethan's wish lists I want to show you. And so this is what our wish list looks like. They get everything on that basket, of course, at the top, but then they can complete this list and list everything that they need. And you see on the back, she even said, turn it over, right? And she wrote a whole list on the back side. So it's drinks and paper towels and a Stitch Disney blanket and, you know, a lot of lotions and soap and that kind of thing. So this is one of the lists that the Perry family used. And what's good about this list is that they can request it as often as they need it, and it's brought back within 24 hours to their door. So they could do it every day if they need to, and it comes back immediately. We also have a gift card binder on the cancer unit at MD Anderson. So families that are in this program can go and look through the binder and get out DoorDash cards or Uber Eats or HEB cards or anything they need to make sure that they're being fed. And in case y'all don't know this, hospitals do not feed parents or siblings, caretakers. They only feed the patient. And so as a mom with Brooke, my 3-year-old, 3 times a day, I'm looking for food, right? So this is one of the major things that drives our programming, is feeding the families and the caregivers. So when Ethan was released into hospice care and he went home, we also give them a basket. This is an example of one of the baskets, but they get a basket to go home with them. And this has been a really big hit for our families. And we put a lot of thought into it. It has like a neck wrap that you can heat up or make it cold, a diffuser, satin pillowcases, you know, and a ton of gift cards for food and all kinds of stuff like that. And so we also send them home with a wish list so that they can request things from home. And then we ship them directly to their door. So they can still get that wish list and they can get it as often as they need it. In March of this year, Ethan did pass away. But through the Livestrong program right now, we are providing virtual grief support counseling for his mom and dad, and it's free of charge. And we also connected his mom and dad with a peer support group from the Houston area, and they have all lost children to cancer. So we immediately connected them, and so they can start doing life with other people that have been on the same journey as them. And then what is so cool is that Ethan's older brother, Aiden, just graduated from high school, and we were able to give him a scholarship so that he could go to UTSA and start his journey. There's so many stories that we've had over this past year. And like I said, this program is so important to me. And I'm so appreciative for Livestrong for seeing us, for seeing this program. One of our cancer moms wrote, as long as there's organizations like you, I'll be grateful for life. And our social worker at MD Anderson said, our families really rely on the Livestrong program. And we have a big job in front of us as we're wanting to launch this palliative care program to our other hospital partners, and they have requested it and asked for it. So that's what lays ahead of us, and we're looking forward to doing that. But I'm so thankful to Livestrong for seeing this program, helping us enhance the quality of life for our patients and families. And to the other nonprofits that are on this today, from this mom, and Kelly could say the same thing, I'm grateful for you. I know how hard it is to be in the nonprofit world. I know how hard you work, all of you. And I think you're amazing people, and you're doing an amazing job.
And earlier, I read your screen name from the Zoom box, but your name is Jessica, right?
It is Jessica. My husband's name is Cheney.
Right. So sorry to have called you by your husband's name.
That's okay.
Is there anything you'd like us to especially remember about Brooke today?
Oh, I mean, I think one of the things that she would always say is, it's not a problem, Mom. So if the doctors came in and they had, other pills and other, things that she had to do, or when things were getting very serious, or when I was upset, she would always say, Mom, it's not a problem. It's just not a problem. And so I just think, we even had that put on a shirt and all of that. So if you think of Brooke, just think about that. She was carefree, witty, fun, and she changed our lives forever.
It's a wonderful attitude.
Yeah.
Any final questions for Jessica?
That was just a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It really touched our hearts.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you for your story and for the wonderful work that you do.
Yes.
Any final questions for anyone before we, I guess we need to wrap up now, don't we? It's time. Well then, thank you all to our Acceleration Grant partners, to everyone who joined us live today, to everyone who is watching this recorded later. Thank you so much for joining with Livestrong to help fix everyday cancer problems, and enjoy the rest of the ICON Summit.